I can, I will, I must is not a slogan. It is a personal declaration of identity. The most important conversation you will ever have is the one you repeat to yourself every single day. Before the world agrees with you, before results show up, before anyone applauds your effort, you decide who you are becoming. You do not wait for confidence to arrive. You build it through intentional action. The future does not respond to intentions, it responds to decisions repeated daily. Before a person changes their actions, they must first change how they see themselves. Identity is the internal picture you carry of who you are and what you believe you deserve. That picture silently directs your decisions long before effort shows up. If you see yourself as someone who quits when things get hard, your actions will eventually match that belief. If you see yourself as a learner, a builder, or a leader in progress, your behavior will rise to meet that standard. People do not rise to the level of their goals, they fall to the level of their identity. Goals tell you where you want to go, but identity determines whether you stay the course when challenges appear. When pressure increases, identity takes over because it is automatic. You do not have to think about who you are. You act from it. This is why lasting change always starts on the inside. When you shift identity from I try to I do, from I hope to I decide, your choices become more consistent. Discipline becomes easier because it aligns with who you believe you are. Growth accelerates when actions are no longer forced, but natural expressions of identity. Change your identity, and direction follows without constant motivation. The future is not created in one dramatic moment. It is shaped by small decisions made every day. Most people overestimate what they can do in a short time and underestimate what consistent daily choices can produce over years. What you do repeatedly becomes who you are eventually, even when the impact feels invisible in the beginning. Progress is often silent before it becomes obvious. Daily choices may seem insignificant, but they compound. Choosing to learn a little instead of scrolling, choosing discipline instead of comfort, choosing preparation instead of procrastination slowly builds momentum. At first, there is no applause, no recognition, and no visible reward. This is where many people quit, not because the process does not work, but because results have not yet shown up. Growth always happens internally before it shows externally. Consistency is powerful because it removes the need for motivation. When good choices become habits, progress no longer depends on how you feel. The people who succeed are not those who wait for perfect conditions, but those who show up when progress is hard to measure. Every small choice is a vote for the future you are becoming. When repeated long enough, those quiet choices create visible transformation without sudden breakthroughs. Responsibility is often misunderstood as pressure, but in reality, it is one of the greatest sources of personal power. The moment you take responsibility for your choices, your habits, and your results, you regain control over your direction. When you blame circumstances, people, or timing, you may protect your feelings, but you give away your authority. Excuses might offer temporary comfort, but they permanently limit growth. Every excuse shifts power outward. It tells your mind that change depends on something external, Responsibility does the opposite. It places the solution back in your hands. You may not control everything that happens to you, but you always control how you respond. That response determines whether a challenge becomes a setback or a stepping stone. Growth accelerates when you stop asking who is at fault and start asking what can be learned. Responsibility creates clarity. It sharpens focus and forces better decisions. Instead of waiting for motivation, you act from ownership. Instead of reacting emotionally, you respond intentionally. People who grow consistently do not see responsibility as blame. They see it as freedom. Freedom to adjust, improve, and move forward. When you own your outcomes, you own your future. Authority over your life begins the moment excuses end. Talent can open doors, but consistency determines how long you stay in the room. Many people rely on natural ability and assume it will carry them through challenges, but pressure exposes what talent alone cannot sustain. When conditions become difficult, consistency becomes the separating factor between those who progress and those who plateau. Repeated effort builds reliability, and reliability builds trust in yourself. Consistency creates strength that talent cannot replace. Talent performs well when conditions are favorable, but consistency performs regardless of mood, energy, or circumstances. It trains your mind to show up even when results are slow. Over time, consistent action sharpens skill, deepens understanding, and builds resilience. What starts as discipline eventually becomes character. Pressure reveals habits. In stressful moments, you do not rise to the level of your potential. You fall to the level of your preparation. Consistency is preparation in action. Small, repeated efforts create stability when chaos appears. That stability allows you to make clear decisions under stress instead of emotional ones. The most successful people are rarely the most gifted, but they are the most dependable with their effort. They trust the process because they trust their habits. When pressure increases, talent hopes for relief, but consistency keeps moving forward without waiting. External motivation is temporary. It depends on mood, environment, and encouragement from others. Inner standards, however, are permanent. They define how you behave when no one is watching and no one is cheering. When your actions are guided by internal standards, you do not need to be pushed, reminded, or pressured. You move because it aligns with who you believe you are. Inner standards act like a personal compass. They determine what you accept, what you reject, and what you refuse to compromise. Motivation asks, how do I feel today? Standards ask, what is required of me? That difference changes everything. When you rely on motivation, progress is inconsistent. When you rely on standards, progress becomes predictable. People with strong inner standards do not lower their effort when circumstances change. They do not wait for perfect timing or ideal conditions. They operate from principles rather than emotions. This creates stability in uncertain environments and confidence under pressure. Growth becomes sustainable when discipline is driven by identity, not excitement. You stop negotiating with yourself and start honoring your commitments. Over time, these standards shape habits, habits shape character, and character shapes outcomes. When inner standards are strong, external motivation becomes optional, not necessary. Comfort is appealing because it feels safe, familiar, and predictable. Growth, however, requires movement beyond what is familiar. The moment comfort becomes the primary goal, progress slows because comfort avoids risk, challenge, and uncertainty. Growth begins when improvement matters more than ease. It starts when you are willing to feel uncomfortable in exchange for becoming stronger. Every meaningful level of development demands stretching beyond current limits. Learning requires admitting you do not know enough. Discipline requires doing what is difficult before it becomes convenient. Change always carries discomfort, not because something is wrong, but because something new is being formed. Avoiding discomfort may protect your present, but it limits your future. People who grow consistently do not seek discomfort for its own sake, but they no longer fear it. They understand that discomfort is often a signal of progress. Resistance shows up at the edge of growth, not in the center of comfort. When you lean into challenge, your capacity expands. Comfort maintains, growth transforms. Maintenance keeps things the same. Transformation changes who you are. The moment you choose.